Known as Faux Rock for his ferocious hitting style, David Fulcher spent 8 years brightly in the spotlight of the NFL. We embrace them, cheer for them. They are heroes in our eyes. Yet when their time in the spotlight ends, many go on to do the most important work of their lives. They go into overtime. Welcome to Overtime, life after the spotlight with NFL All-Pro David Fulcher and his co-host, national award-winning speaker David Coleman, exclusively on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Overtime, life after the spotlight. I'm your co-host, David Coleman, along with the star of our show, David Fulcher. David, how are you?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you?
Doing really well. David and I were lamenting, our guest today, Rob, I'll get to you in a second. We were lamenting that both of our dogs woke us up today in the hours of the 6 a.m. to say, your sleeping is done, time to get up, get ready for your podcast. So they were our wake-up calls. David, we got a great guest today who has his own show later today that I think he does every day. We'll let him talk about that. But we have one of the Nasty Boys from Cincinnati Reds fame, one of the best pitchers to ever play for that franchise, won a world championship, known as one of the Nasty Boys, Rob Dibble. Thank you for joining us.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Hey, Rob. So I remember coming down to Walter Camp in Connecticut, and you were set up. I think you were doing your show, and I walked by and I said, "Man, that's Rob. Rob, remember me?" And Rob goes, "David, get over and sit down. Let's talk." And once again, man, we thank you for coming onto the show. And, you know, I think I was telling you this here before we got on the air that most of the people that knew me or know me always want to know what David Fulcher's doing. And our goal was, when we talked about putting this together, Overtime, life after the spotlight, I started to think about former athletes, businessmen, people who were in the spotlight, and then just asking them, "Hey, what are you doing today?" And one of my questions right off the bat, Rob, is the last year you pitched, what year was that?
I came back in 98 with the Padres in spring training. So I would say 98 was the last time I actually was in a uniform.
Okay. So I want to take you back to 98, 99. You woke up that morning and it's time to go to work, but there's no work. What was your thought process on that particular day when you woke up to go to work as a baseball player and it wasn't there?
Well, I'm a different guy, Dave. For me, you know, I had one brother in the Navy. My other brother was a fireman. My dad had been in radio, and he finished doing radio for 50 years here in Connecticut. He was a newsman, and he taught at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. So I was prepared for life after baseball. I was actually studying to be a cop. I was 31 years old, and, you know, being kind of a blue collar guy, I was like, all right, so I'm getting a full pension from baseball, and, you know, why don't I do a job, either fireman, cop, and I'll get another full pension when I'm like, you know, 55. So I was preparing to take the Connecticut State Police exam, and you know, it wasn't a problem for me because after 96, I'd had 2 shoulder surgeries. They took my labrum out. They had taken half of my rotator cuff off. And I was just like, I was
Wow.
still throwing in the mid 90s, but
Wow.
I had no command. And I was, you know, people were scared of me then. I was way more dangerous in 1996 because when I was at the Marlins, I was, you know, one day I could throw 25 strikes. The next day I'd hit every guy that stood in the batter's box. And so, you know, I'm a very, you know, Christian guy. I'm spiritual, and I'm like, listen, God has something planned for me way better than this. I can't keep doing this and maybe injure one of these guys. It's their time. It's not my time. So I was prepared. Even at 31, I felt old, and I was like, I'm ready to move on and do something else. And you know, so push came to shove. My ex-wife, my agent, everybody wanted me to stay in baseball. I had teams calling me, and I was just like, I can't do this. I mentally couldn't do it. I spiritually couldn't do it. And so I was ready to move on. And it was an easy decision for me. I know a lot of guys, it's tough, but for me, I was ready to do something else and have another challenge.
Rob, that's a really classy. I don't know that we've had many guests on either of our other podcasts, either that we've done in the past, that had a classier mentality than that. That because, you know, it's one thing to keep doing. I've been speaking for a while, and it's something to get up in front of those audiences, and then to go one day, it's time for me to stop because I could hurt something, like what you're just
Right.
saying. I'm getting wilder and wilder. And it kind of leads me into my one question for you. You were known for, when you took the mound, you came out with a chip on your shoulder and you had an attitude. Did you carry that? It made you one of the fiercest competitors I've ever seen play professional sports, just quite honestly. Did you carry that over into life after the spotlight, into your own podcast, into what you do now?
No, no. I mean, off the field, people who know me, I'm a teddy bear, and it's easy for me to switch it on and off. David would probably say you'd make a hell of a football player. I did. I played football, basketball, soccer, growing up, hockey. And it's just, I had two older brothers that used to beat the crap out of me. So, when you're growing up in that environment where everybody's so competitive around you, and I grew up in Connecticut, which is a small state, but a lot of blue collar guys, Sikorsky Aircraft, Pratt and Whitney Aircraft, in Southington, Connecticut. And so for me, when I stepped on the field, it was all business. When I stepped off the field, it was time to have fun and be a good person. So it's been easy for me. I still coach. I coach 15 and 16-year-old AAU players, and everybody thinks I'm this angry, intense guy, and I'm not. And if you know my players, they love me. They think I'm like the nicest guy in the world. But don't don't come after my players. That's when the old Rob will come out.
Yes.
I will protect my kids. I'll protect my family like a papa bear. But other than that, man, I'm 60. Like David, man, I'm long past those days of having to compete for stuff. I mean, I'm very content in my life right now. So,
David Fulcher, does this sound familiar at all? One good hit left. Okay.
Yeah, it does, man. My kids were 18 months and just born when I stopped playing football. And my daughter Kayla would always say when she was growing up, Daddy, why do these people always come up to you and ask for your autograph? You're just my dad. And sometimes, it's a little different. And my wife Judy said the same thing when people come up and say, man, your husband was a beast. He killed people on the field. My wife goes, well, that's not the same guy I married. Well, yeah, it was after football. So, Rob, I'm telling you, man, I've watched you. I've come to so many Reds games. I went to high school with Eric Davis. Eric and I grew up together, 2 years older than I am. But I used to come and watch you guys play, man, late in my career, whenever that was. And I used to come out and sit there and watch you throw. And I used to go, this dude needs to be on our football team. This guy don't need to be a baseball player. This guy's got some attitude and some adjustments that he could probably play some tight end or play defensive end and whoop people. And I think that's what this program is about, man. That's why we wanted to come out and put together an opportunity to talk to guys that have a passion for what they do outside of their game, playing football, basketball, baseball, no matter what it is. And that's why we wanted to get you on here, man, because this is not just a football program. This is a everyday person program. And what we try to do, man, is just talk to people and ask them questions. And once those questions get answered, man, we're throwing 97 mile an hour fastball.
Yeah,
and that's what you throw. So,
to David, to your point, when you walked off a football field, and I'm friends with Michael Strahan and a lot of other football players, you guys can turn it off. Like I could turn it off. And Eric, being one of your boys, he's one of my best friends. He's my brother. I mean, honestly, I felt like I grew up with this guy, even though he's from South Central LA, and his brother was in the Crips, all that kind of stuff. Eric, on the field, one of the greatest players I ever played with. Off the field, would be into
Even
you
better.
all the time, never be satisfied. But man, when we partied, it was awesome. And still, he's still one of the coolest cats. I mean, there's people that have an aura about them, and you know this, David. Eric has that.
Yes, he does.
Eric has a class and a style about him. He still looks wonderful. And I used to get pissed. Eric would walk in the locker room, 6'3", 180, 185, 4% body fat, and look great and everything. I'm 6'4", 230. I'd put on a leather outfit. I look like a freaking cow. I mean, it was just stupid. So I'm like, why does that guy look so good and I look like crap? But but Eric is like your best friend, and he's a mentor. He's like a father figure to me, even though he's the same age, all wrapped into one. And I don't know where he gets it from. He's just got a spirit. and an aura better than almost anybody I've ever met in my life. So, you nailed it. I mean, so I emulated guys like that. Eric did stuff in the community. He did a lot of charity stuff. I still do stuff like that. And so it's because you should give back. We're blessed. Yes. You know it. I'm blessed. I mean, yes. I've been doing radio and TV for 27 years now.
Wow.
I mean, 3 times as long as my baseball career. I've made 5 times as much money doing what I do now than when I played. And people will be like, well, how'd you do it? It's you're blessed because our work ethic will never stop. That's the one thing I think that kids, if they listen to this, the ones that I coach, I try to instill that in them, that you've got to work hard when nobody's watching you. You can't show up to practice twice a week or play the games and think you're going to be good. You and we know how hard we worked. I was running in the schools in the off season. I was running stairs. I was thrown against a wall by myself. I did stuff that would blow people's mind because I couldn't find a catcher. I don't care. I'll go throw against a brick wall, and I have this problem with my 13-year-old daughter who plays lacrosse and tennis. It's like, you got to get out there and enjoy the day. Get out there and just throw the ball up in the air to yourself. I mean, you don't need your team to make you better. And so all of that work ethic stuff comes into what I do now. Every day it's funny because, we're the flagship station for UConn sports. So we're blessed there. We've got great basketball, back-to-back national champions. We cover the Yankees, we cover the Giants, we cover the Jets. And you've got built-in stories right there every day, and it's like, but I still read 50 things a day. I still prepare like I was a baseball player because I want to be the best. It's something our parents instilled in us. In order to be the best, you can't ever stop working. You got to always grind because there's always somebody grinding more. I haven't been let go by jobs because I wasn't doing the work. Somebody didn't think I was doing the work. That's all you need is one person to think they're not working hard enough. Let's get somebody that we think is working hard enough. So, that's what life's all about, man. And that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Yes, sir.
Rob, it's so great to get to know you a little bit because I'm quickly realizing that you and David are brothers from another mother. And honestly, it's like I'm talking to two of you. It's like I'm talking to twins. Rob, what was it like to be in the spotlight in a smaller, and Cincinnati's considered a smaller market. We're not New York, and we're not LA, we're not Chicago, we're really not Miami, kind of those markets. What was it like to become the mega superstar that you became for quite a while in this town?
I wouldn't say mega. I would say it was fun as hell, though.
What was it like to be a big fish in a relatively small pond where you were one of the nasty boys, winning a world championship? What was that like?
Man, I can't even begin to tell you how blessed that feeling was. I mean, just, it was easy to perform. It was easy to do my job because, before school let out, we'd have 25,000 a night. When school let out, it was 35, 40 a night. And for a mid-market team like that, David knows what it's like, but he only got to do it 8 times a year in front of the Bengal fans.
Right.
For me, I got to do it 81 times a year. So imagine, I get chills right now thinking about it. Just to run out of the bullpen, my song that they would play was "Smoke on the Water" by Deep Purple.
Right.
And I got so fired up. I was like, I can't let these people down. They're blue collar, they're farmers, they're from Kentucky, they're from Indiana, they're from Pennsylvania, Ohio. And it's like, I'm one of these people. And, I'm pitching for them as well as Southington, Connecticut, and where I'm from. So it's every time I took the mound, I had to represent Cincinnati. I early on, and I played 11 years in the organization. I was drafted, took 4.5 years to get to the big leagues. And then I spent 7 years with the Reds. So, I mean, all told, I was 11 years as a Red, no facial hair, no long hair. You had to show 4 inches of your socks. So when we saw like all these other teams that were flashy and kind of, hot dogs and stuff like that, that pissed us off because we couldn't do that. Even in the minor leagues, I couldn't run without my hat on. David can go back with me in time. Now everybody can wear whatever colored shoes they want, right? When I was coming up in the minor leagues, all black shoes. The Reds had to wear all black. One year, I think it was my 3rd year in, we got to put red on the Nike swoosh because I was a Nike guy. And, oh, my God, it was like Christmas Day. Dude, we could put color on our shoes. So just little things like that, man. You carried that onto the mound. That was the chip. That was my edge. My edge wasn't that was out of control. There was a method to my madness. And again, I roomed with Norm Charlton for 7 years. Very smart guy, 3 degrees from Rice University, but we were into mental warfare. And I know David knows this, being a linebacker and being a defensive back that's just built like a linebacker. He's, he's ready to destroy you physically, but mentally, I'm going to take that edge as well. And that's what makes you a great athlete. You have to understand, everybody's the same. Everybody's running around on a baseball field, football field, the same. It's just, if you can get a little bit more mentally than that guy, that was my edge. And so the fan base, how they treated you when you were going to your car, there's 200 people wanting your autograph. I didn't grow up around that. I'm from a small town in Connecticut. We had minor league teams, but I had never been to a major league game until I pitched in one. That's
Wow.
people would be like, whoa, you had the Yankees and the Reds. I was playing. The first time I was actually in a big ballpark was playing in these minor league ballparks. And so back in 87, I played at Mile High Stadium because we were the Denver Zephyrs. That was the AAA affiliate. That was the first time I was like, I got to get to the next level. I got to see what it's like to play in this stadium. And honestly, I'm love history, love like the times of the gladiators and guys like that. And David could jump in with this. I used to go to Riverfront Stadium at 2 a.m. I used to sit on the mound.
Wow.
And the only things that would be showing were the lights and the exit signs. That was the only thing in the whole stadium. And again, I'm getting chills because this is some of the stuff that I needed. I needed to push myself and not give up what I had. Because there's always new young guys coming for your job every year. First round picks. They're bringing guys, up from the minor leagues that haven't done anything. And I'm sure David saw that in camp every year. There's a younger, better model of him coming up. And so I would sit there and be like, man, I got to defend my role and this stadium. Every time I went out there, I was trying to defend Riverfront Stadium.
And when you say that, man, it brings back the memories that I had as a Cincinnati.
Well, I used to go to all your games, man. You guys come out there, it's packed. And it's like the World Series every Sunday for you guys. You guys, being a Bengal had to be awesome.
And the thought process for football players is the same way it was with you. When I got out there, I know I had teammates, but I played for them 60,000 people that were screaming.
Yep.
And what I really liked about being a football player is when we are on the field and the crowd is they're kind of dormant. They're not making a lot of noise. And you go like this, all of a sudden you got 60,000 people are now getting louder and getting louder. Or when Boomer would get on the field and he would go like this, now he's got 60,000 people being quiet. So the control that we had on the football field, just like you, when you play ball and you pitch, you control that game. Yeah. I'm the guy with the ball. I have control of this game. This guy is trying to hit this ball. I'm not going to let this guy hit this ball. And I'm going to tell you something, man. I used to watch you, man. I used to get intimidated because this guy's got a baseball in his hand. He as big as I am, and he's throwing 95 miles an hour. Yeah. And what? If that ball hits me, it's going to hurt.
Well, let me take you to the playoffs. So now you're in the playoffs, and I know. Listen, this is going to be rare getting in the postseason, playing in the NLCS against the Pirates, then playing in the World Series. I would step off the mound just to let that come in and take a second and be like, and thank God for that. And I would always thank God. I always prayed during the national anthem and thank God for blessing me to be in this position. Because I was just so lucky. And it when you're sitting in the locker room, and this, David, you're sitting in the locker room with grown men that are just as blessed as you, and to be put in that position. And Paul O'Neill and I used to always have this conversation. He's like, listen, dude, it's a sin to question that, why you're here. Don't question why me? Why did I get in this position? Because, and we would have that conversation a lot. I had the same, theological conversations with Norm all the time about why are we here? Why did we get so lucky? And so again, every time I stepped in that locker room, I appreciated it, man. And I didn't want to let my brothers down, because I know a lot of these guys felt the same way. When we had Fellowship of Christian Athletes, we had 20 guys in there out of 25. And I'll tell you what, who used to come in all the time was Anthony Munoz. And when that big, comes in there and he starts talking about God, you're like,
he's just the best.
I love this man. So
gotta keep your mouth quiet when Anthony comes around.
That's right. Exactly. So
there's a reverence. Even out on the golf course, he walks around, people kind of just gather, and
yes,
dude, there's a reverence.
But it's real. It really is real that you feel this, your blessings all the time. And I would be in the dugout and you're just next to all these guys and you just feel it. And it's like, you don't want it to end, like you asked me earlier, but it's somebody else's time now. Somebody else can do this job better than me. I'm risking other people's careers, and that's why it was easy for me to step away. But when I was there was nothing greater than the national anthem and standing with those guys and knowing, okay, now we're taking out. And listen, I still hate the Dodgers. I still hate every team I used to play with against. So
your Dodgers are David Fulcher's Steelers. Okay, so
can't stand the Steelers, man. Can't stand.
There you go.
I do have a question for you, man. Are you still play golf, don't you?
Yeah. Not well.
Huh?
Not well.
Well, that's okay, man. I mean, because if we'd have played golf well, we'd be on the tour. My question is, I don't know what your schedule is. I don't know if you're in. When was the last time you've been back to Cincinnati?
Oh, we'll be back there. We come back every year, at least once or twice. I'll be with Norm and Randy, I think in June, maybe July.
Okay, well, I've got 2 golf tournaments that I'm associated with. My own tournament, Putt for Penguins, is June 24th, Weatherington Country Club, and then Unforgettables in July 15th at the Four Bridges Golf Course. The Unforgettables is foundation that helps young parents if they lose their loved ones, their kids at a young age. We help bury them. We give them financial backing to help them bury them, which is so hard, close to my heart.
You can even imagine. It's
that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
I kind of coached in that tournament.
Yeah, and then my Putt for Penguins is Newport on the Aquarium Wave Foundation. So I'll shoot you some messages, information about that tournament if you're in town. Love to have you play.
Yeah,
Dave, you got any other questions for the big man here?
Let me just Rob, what's really great about today's interview, and I think Dave would agree with me, is when we just talked about doing this show, we wanted guests that were authentic, genuine, and real. And of everybody we've done so far, I think you might be coming out of the bullpen at the #1 spot right there. Last thing I would love to ask you is this: take your 1990 team, take that team, put them in Great American Ballpark in today's world with today's social media. That team, that amazing team that did what it did and proved everybody wrong, put them in the little smaller ballpark, the more intimate ballpark, full with social media and all that. Can you imagine the difference playing today versus that? Or do you don't think there'd be a difference at all?
You wouldn't believe how good that team is. There was an all-star at almost every position. Although we didn't have a 20-game winner, Riho, Danny Jackson, Tom Browning could win 20 games on a lot of other teams. But they would pull those guys out of a lot of games that were close, down a run, up a run, with our bullpen. And, but things are different. I mean, back then the pitchers wanted to go deep into games. Now pitchers, I watch them, they're at 100 pitches in the 5th inning. They're looking to the bullpen to come get them out. I mean, there was a different mentality. But, Paul O'Neill, Eric, Barry, Chris Sabo, Mariano Duncan, Ron Oster, Hal Morris, Benzinger. I mean, honestly, our catchers, I haven't seen a lot of guys like that since. We're a family. We all came up together. So I would say 12 out of the 25 guys, we all came up from the minor leagues together. So when you're that close of guys that have played together for 10 years, we were unstoppable. I mean, it wasn't just wire to wire. It was, we want to bury every team we play. Paul O'Neill's power was so ridiculous. He would have hit 50 home runs a year in that ballpark. Eric would have hit 40, 50 home runs a year. Guys would have been launching opposite field. Like when the one beautiful thing about watching some of these guys, Barry Larkin, Eric Davis, all of those guys, their power the opposite way because they use the whole field. They would hit so many more home runs to opposite fields and it would have blown people's minds. The game has changed. Everybody is pull centric. Everybody wants to pull it. Even when I'm watching 15, 16-year-olds, all they do is try to pull the ball. So, using all fields, like the only guy I could compare, let's say on the Yankees, is Juan Soto. Sure. Juan Soto could have played on our team. Other than that, we wouldn't have wanted a lot of these other guys. If you struck out, we don't want you to come back to the dugout. With 2 strikes, you better put the ball in play. So that team was so amazing, unselfish. They were so fast. Everybody could run. The only guys that couldn't run really were like Joe Oliver and Hal Morris. Everybody else could have stole 30 bases a year. They just weren't given the green light. Lou and his coaching staff were very conservative. If we played a St. Louis style game, we would have stole so many more bases. Everybody was fast, but we weren't allowed to do that. We played kind of station to station, a lot of button guys over, hit and run stuff. If they were playing wide open baseball like today, we would have blown people's minds. Now, social media, let me finish with this. I would never have wanted social media or cell phones with cameras to follow me around back in the day. That's where it would have been an issue because off the field, we went out every night, 20 guys. We loved each other. We still love each other. I still talk to these guys constantly. Awesome. But it would not have been pretty if we would have gotten caught doing stuff that we used to do when I was playing.
You know what? I'll tell you this here, man, as I hear you speak, and this is what I feel like today's athletes compared to back in those days is there wasn't any egos.
Right.
We were teammates. I didn't care how much money Boomer Esiason made or Anthony Munoz, James Brooks, or Tim Krumrie. What I cared about was winning. When I watched those Reds teams in the 90s, when I came here in 86, I saw, and being here in 86, I saw you guys out because I went out there. I stood and watched. If people had drinks, I had water. I went home, and then I got ready for the next day. But there was no egos. I think there's so many egos today in sports that it's killing the game of sports. This guy wants this. This guy wants that. I need to have more money than he's got. My car's got to be bigger than his. Man, we were driving around in Volkswagens and Chevys and the good stuff back in the day. Even though we made some money, but we didn't take that money and put it towards a $10 million house or a $5 million car. We were a group of guys, just like you guys were, that when you came out of that tunnel to play, you ran out on that field and you come running out for that save, and everybody looked at you saying, "Oh, he's got it. This guy's got it, and we're going to fight for him." And I think that's the difference between athletes today than it was 30 years ago.
I agree. I mean, the branding back then wasn't the way it is today. Everybody wants to, and God bless her, Caitlin Clark's amazing, but the first thing they put out there is about her Nike shoe contract, not about her new team.
Yes.
No, how are you going to make your new team better? Every guy we got, and we got a lot of great guys in trades. We were like, holy crap, we got Jose Rijo. We got Danny Jackson from the Royals. I mean, that's all you cared about. That was like a toy. That was like the shiny new toy. Oh my God, he's on my team. Thank God.
Yeah.
Everything was about winning. Like you said, the Nasty Boys comes from our whole bullpen. It wasn't just about Norm or Randy or myself. Whoever got to save, but we won. That's like, we were just about, let's win the game and move on to tomorrow. Win that game, move on to the next day. That's got to be your attitude. You're playing so many games in baseball and football. Every game is monumental. Every game, you guys, you got to win, and that's honestly, and that's why I love the Bengals even today. Joe Burrow and your team, those guys, I think are more like a family, kind of like our generation, and you could hear them. You could hear when the linemen speak. You can hear when these other guys, they're very, very unselfish. And that's how you win. You win with guys that are willing to just give everything to the team instead of, hey, what can the team give me? What can this company give me? What can that company give? Who cares?
Yes.
You got time for all that other nonsense.
Yes.
Man, you can't take away our world championship. And that's the one thing that, whenever you're announced or whatever, I just won this award in Connecticut, and it was honestly by a football organization, Distinguished American. And I was like, Distinguished American. They're like, well, you do a lot of stuff for the community and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, I'll take the award, but I don't deserve it. But the point is you'll win all kinds of awards and stuff like that just for being recognized for what you and your team did.
Yes.
I wasn't the only guy on the team, but as you get older, and this, David, they recognize you for accomplishments that your whole team helped you get to. So that's what I think these young cats don't understand. That, money is great. Nice, cars, houses, stuff like that. Man, get divorced once or twice. Like Norm's been divorced twice. I've been divorced once, and you lose half of everything. It puts it in perspective. It's just materialistic stuff. But when people recognize you for stuff that you and your teammates did, that is way more fulfilling than any, check I ever got or any car I've ever driven.
So one of the things I told people, I don't make 180 tackles because David just made them. I made 180 tackles in a year because them other 10 guys did their job.
Right.
And then there's David standing right in the hole. Here comes Bo Jackson, and I've got to tackle him. So when you do that, man, that's why when somebody say you're all pro, I say, you know what? It's great that my peers vote for me to be an all pro. But if it wasn't for Dick LeBeau, who ran the defense, if it wasn't for Barney Bussey, if it wasn't for Reggie Williams, Tim Crumride doing their job, David Fulcher's not an all-pro. That makes
100%.
sense?
That 100%. Like when my first All-Star game, I was a setup guy. I wasn't even the closer. That was our World Series year. So Randy's getting all the saves, but I was getting the 7th and the 8th inning, or Norm was getting the 8th inning, I was getting the 7th inning. But I was pitching a lot to be the bridge to this guy. And you're not even thinking about, I got a chance to make the All-Star team. When they told me I made the All-Star team, I laughed. I laughed a little. I'm like, get out of here. When I was co-MVP of the NLCS, again, I was like, just stop. It's almost like someone's pulling your leg. So it's like I was so busy doing my thing. Like you said, the only way I get there is the offense gives me enough runs. The only way you get in these games is the manager makes that decision that he thinks it's, you should be in this situation. I thrived on the worst situation. That's where I made my bones, was bases loaded, 1 out. I got to get out of this jam. So that, like you said, people being comfortable enough to put you in those situations, that was why I became an all-star. That's why I became an LCS co-MVP. If I wasn't put in those situations, again, being blessed, I don't win these awards. So again, without my teammates, without my defense, oh my God, I mean, I could go on and on and on. Every time I made a mistake and it's going the wrong way, 1,000 miles an hour, and I see Eric Davis in center field smack his leg and make the catch, dude, you can't even imagine the feeling you get. But people don't remember that. I'll never forget it until I die. But my defense, I had a Hall of Fame shortstop. I had great catchers. I had, my Chris Sabo was drafted to play hockey, was my third baseman. Can you imagine? Guy went to Michigan. He's my third baseman. Yeah, he had rec specs on, but that guy, he would have stopped the ball with his face, picked it up and thrown you out and laughed at you. That's the kind of guys I played with, and that's, again, it's when you're standing on the mound, you're like, these guys got me 7 innings into this game, 8 innings, 9 innings into this game. I cannot fail them.
Yeah.
That was the pressure. So like when I snapped in New York, when I gave up the game-winning home run, the reason I was pissed was not me. Tim Belcher just threw an 8-inning shutout. It was 2-0. I came in and I blew that game. That was my fault. And I felt shame. I was ashamed that I was wearing the uniform, so I ripped it off because I was like, I don't deserve to wear this uniform today. Yeah. And people will be like, God, you were angry. No, I wasn't angry. I was ashamed that they did all this work and I let them down. So I totally understand what David's saying, that people put you in that situation for that second, that moment. It's a little snippet in time, but that's your time. Dude, don't fail. You got to make it happen.
Rob, let me thank you for a couple of things.
Yes, sir.
Number one, let me thank you for your humility. In today's world, today's businesses, today's sports, it's really nice to hear a person so humble and so team-oriented.
Yes.
Number two, I want to thank you because I'm going to be quoting you in my public appearances from now on, where work ethic never stops. So when I'm up in front of 10,000 people this August at Purdue, one of my last slides is going to be probably a picture of you, if you'll allow me to do that.
That's fine.
I'm going to put work
Make
ethic.
it a good picture, though.
I'll make it a good picture. You won't be tearing anything off, I promise. Number 3, I want to thank you because I know David pretty well. We've become pretty good friends. I can tell when a guest has gotten him fired up. And since he can't go take the field today, I have a feeling we're going to play golf. So I would like to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Man, God bless you guys. Listen, both my parents were deacons. Both my parents were deacons. My dad died in 97, but he was battling leukemia. I'll never forget this. My dad's he's doing, chemotherapy and all this stuff. He still went to work. My dad still, God bless him, the last week of his life, he still went into work.
Wow.
So that's just where I get it from, man. It's just, it's people that, were your role models in life that you're like, I can't let these people down. I still love going to work every day. Like, we're on after the Yankees game today. I can't wait, for the Yankees game to get over just so I can start talking about all the stuff that happened this weekend. I mean, it's just, it's in you. And that's the one thing I know David coaches as well. When you're coaching young kids, trying to mentor them, we can't put what we have in them. We can only tell them what to do. It's up to them to grab it and take it inside and be like, that's right. I got to work. The proudest moments I get, I'll give you a quick story. This kid, his parents actually were in the Latin Kings here in Connecticut.
Wow. Real
rough kid and Puerto Rican kid. And I get him at about 14 years old. And by 17 years old, this kid not only had a 3.8 GPA in high school, became a great baseball player. He just got a full academic scholarship to Lincoln University.
Wow.
His name is Dennis Flores. He's the only freshman on the varsity team. And that is my life now, trying to get these kids to the next level, trying to get them to understand that, listen, God gave you the talent.
Yes.
You could either just pass on it or say, I'm going to use this and I'm going to run with it. And that kid, at first, he didn't even want to pitch anymore. I had to keep talking him into pitching every year. That's how good this kid was. He wanted to play short. He wanted to. I'm like, dude, there's not enough good pitchers like you. You throw so well, and now he's pitching in college. So
that's awesome.
That's the kind of stuff that I had great coaches growing up. I had great parents growing up. But that's when David and I can get one person to the next level, it's very fulfilling.
Yes.
Before I bring us to a close, David, any last things for Rob?
No, man, I'm telling you, you're, we've had 8 guests on here, man. And I appreciate all you guys that have been on here, man. And I'll tell you this, man, this was good. This is what we're trying to do, man. We're trying to build something. We're trying to reach to the communities. We're trying to reach the kids, trying to reach the parents, that you don't give up. Our stories or war stories that people can hear and they can understand why we've been successful and why we do what we do. Thank you, brother. Love having you, man.
Rob, thank you for your time.
Let me finish with one thing about what Dan Hurley says from the UConn Huskies. He's like, he tells these parents, stop being fans of your kid. Don't be a fan of your kid. Be a parent. Push these kids, make them respect their teammates, the game. That's the kind of players they're looking for. So if you see the success, UConn hasn't had the best players the last 2 years. They've had the best teammates and the best family run organization. That's why they win. And so when you see these guys, understand Dan Hurley has vetted your parents. Dan Hurley has watched how you interact with your parents and your teammates. So Gino Auriemma's been doing it for 40 years with the women. And I listen. I'm like, it's exactly right. So stop being fans of your kids and push your kids to go out there and do the work that needs to be done when no one's watching them.
Amen.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Time. We know you have your own show to get ready for. This has been David Fulcher, David Coleman, Rob Dibble here on Overtime Live after the Spotlight here on Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Thank you for joining us, Rob. We loved having you. We'll see you next time.
See you, Rob.
See you guys.
Take care, Rob.
Take care, guys.
You've been listening to Overtime with NFL All-Pro David Fulcher and co-host, award-winning speaker David Coleman on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Be sure to catch all our shows and music by downloading our app at bootleggersmusicgroup.com. All content is published and owned by the Bootleggers Music Group, LLC, and Zasco Publishing, and may not be duplicated without prior written consent. Executive producer, Paul E. Jones.